Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thanks for joining us today for eWEEK eSpeaks. And our guest this morning, again, is Zeus Kerravala, one of the best networking analysts in the country. And Zeus, thanks for joining us today. We've got a real interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the topic. You can see here I'm live, right, in front of Oracle's building virtually, since I'm sheltered in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be a fun topic.
Yeah. So the crux of it is that Zoom is going off the charts with all the meetings that consumers are now using it for, whereas just a few months ago, it was basically just an enterprise tool for teams to work to collaborate from remote locations. Now it's teachers and classes and church meetings and a lot of consumer type events, and they've needed to get some help. And how do they go to get the help?
Yeah, Zoom's, you're right. First of all, it is growing off the charts. I think the last number I saw was 400% growth. They've grown an entire Zoom since the pandemic started, or a little bit more than that, which is pretty remarkable. And you're right, it was used for corporate meetings primarily. Now it's being used for people to hold virtual cocktail parties, right? The NFL did their draft over Zoom. I understand things weren't perfect, but it worked pretty well for that function. Companies are doing multi-thousand person meetings over this thing, and so their servers are getting absolutely hammered. Now, Zoom's primary cloud computing vendor is Amazon Web Services, and Zoom also has their own servers. And I think, obviously with the growth they're experiencing, they need to expand, and they chose Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Hence, here I am in front of Oracle to do their meetings instead of Azure or Google Cloud, and that was a bit of a surprise. But that was the crux of the news, is that Zoom is now an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure customer. And when you think of cloud, Oracle is not the first name that comes to mind, right? Larry Ellison has been historically negative on cloud, although he's warmed up to it over the years. I think he once referred to it as idiocy. He once said everything's cloud. He once said nobody understands what it is. But recently, Oracle's been all in on cloud, and they've done actually a pretty good job of building their infrastructure.
Well, yeah, Oracle has had to completely change its business model, much to Larry's dislike. But, he saw the writing on the wall. He realized that's where it was all going. And all of a sudden, he's all in now. But back in the early days, he made fun of cloud computing, saying, oh, it's just a bunch of computers that are connected. What's the difference between that and just a regular connection? Well, there are a lot of big differences between cloud and regular connections, but we don't need to go there right now.
Yeah.
He's seen the light, and Oracle is now moving basically every one of its applications and its virtual infrastructure components to the cloud.
Yeah, and Oracle, like I said, they've done a nice job of that pivot. I think they were very obviously they looked at it as very threatening. They were slow to move their licenses, but Oracle is all in on cloud, and almost everything they do falls under that purview. And they're very strong in private cloud too, and I think that's something that can't really be dismissed. I think Oracle, even through the embracing of cloud, has always understood the world's going to go hybrid cloud, and that's something that Google and Amazon really just rolled out last year, was their own private cloud stacks, and that's a bit of testament, I guess, to Oracle. When I asked both Andy Jassy and Kieran at Google why they rolled out their own private cloud stacks, they said because that's what our large customers want, right? And so Oracle, obviously, that much of their customer base is in that Fortune 2000, and in fact, I think almost all of them use Oracle. So he would have seen that. Oracle would have seen that coming probably long before the public cloud guys. And so they do have a good they do have a good infrastructure that performs well. One of the big questions that I've been asking was why did Zoom use Oracle? Was this something competitive? Because obviously, if you look at Google Hangouts and Microsoft Teams, that would compete directly with Zoom. And I thought at first that might be the case, but I don't believe that's really true. I think, first of all, Zoom has an important business to run, and so they're going to go with the best provider, right? They run on Amazon already. Amazon has Chime, that competes. I think Microsoft Teams is certainly a formidable foe for Zoom, but I don't believe Google Hangouts is. Google Hangouts is this niche tool used by some schools that, yeah, it's not really a corporate tool. So to say it's competitive, I think would be diminishing Eric Yuan, the CEO of Zoom, his decision-making ability, also in his team, and also I think what Oracle has done. I'll take Eric at his face value, where he was quoted in the press release as saying that he chose Oracle because their performance is good, because they're secure, and obviously Zoom's been through the ringer on security,
Right.
and the customer service is good. And so I think from a Zoom perspective, they were going to pick a platform that offered them the highest levels of security. And say what you want about Larry Ellison, throughout time, he has maintained Oracle is the most secure database.
Right.
In fact, remember when he called them unbreakable,
Right.
and he dared everybody to try and hack them, right? So
Right.
I think from a Zoom perspective, they need security, and a secure platform, and that's what Oracle brings.
They need security and scalability, and Oracle brings both of those. And you're absolutely right about Larry and security. One of his first, well, most of his first, or I mean, his early clients back in the late 70s were government agencies. And so, that's where Oracle's roots are. They're in security and they're in data protection. And that's what they do. And they do it very well.
Yeah, well, all the three-letter agencies use them, right? And
yeah.
I think that's important. And from a Zoom perspective, they do need to have a good, strong, secure platform. And so I think that's really the reason why they went with them. Now, they're not moving off of Amazon, and I read some reports that suggested that Amazon will be their core provider, and then Oracle provide a lot of the backup. And actually, from a Zoom perspective, you want to have multiple cloud providers. I think that provides you a degree of resiliency as well. So good move by Zoom, great for Oracle. I think it shows the pivot for Oracle is finally here. They all are in on cloud, and maybe we'll be talking about them as the fourth cloud sometime.
You never know about this, about these things. Thanks, Zeus, very much for your input and your analysis on this. We appreciate your time on eSpeaks.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Okay, everybody out there, have a great rest of your eWEEK. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.